Welcome to Abandoned Save, where I highlight the good, not legendary games of the past. Today I'm checking out another sequel to a game I've covered before, Summon Night Swordcraft Story 2 for the Game Boy Advance. And this just might be one of the funniest games on the system. The first game was mostly serious in tone with a bit of a goofy protagonist, and for the sequel, the writing team decided to go crazy, but not as crazy as a Ghost Stories episode. We can't go that far.
Principals always look like lesbians.
With revamped systems that I think are pretty much improvements across the board, let's take a look at how Swordcraft Story 2 evolved from its predecessor. Swordcraft Story 2 is the second in the Game Boy Advance spin-off series from the main Summon Night strategy RPG series of games. And just like the first one, it's an action RPG that kind of plays like a blend of a fighting game and an RPG. Only Summon Night 5 and 6 were ever released in the West much later than these spin-off games, but we did get Swordcraft Story 1 and 2, just not the third game for some reason. You once again take on the role of a craft knight tasked with making your own weapons to use in battle and fighting alongside your guardian beast, but gone are the mainstay deep dungeon and serious tone of the first game. This time we're on an adventure to save the world based in our small town of Cliff Village, and go all around to different dungeons and meet some wild characters along the way. The moment-to-moment gameplay is the same as the first game. When in the town, you can talk to NPCs and do a couple of small side quests that don't really give you that much. Then go into a dungeon where you have random battles that play out in a 2D plane like a fighting game. They're the same 5 weapon types to create and use in battle, as well as 4 different guardian beasts to use, which all have their own personality and a ton of dialogue that's completely unique to them to add some replayability to the game. You can still destroy your opponent's weapons and yours can break, but we're not in a tournament arc anymore, and a lot of the bosses you'll be fighting aren't people, so that mechanic has been placed a little to the side. You also have your guardian beast, which can cast different spells which are unique to the one you chose, and do basic things like enhance your weapon or attack the opponent. Swordcraft Story 2 is closer to a traditional RPG with dungeons that you return to somewhat often, which some reviewers did complain about, but for the most part, each story beat takes you to a new location with new enemies and new bosses to fight. All of this is just as fun as the original game, but seriously, the dialogue here is the real reason to play this game. It is incredible. You never know what a character is going to say or do. Like in this water-themed dungeon where you can't get through because this fish man is blocking the way, and he'll only let you through if you can ask him nicely, like a sexy woman. Honestly, you don't even have to be a woman. He'll take whatever he can get. Just like the first game, you can choose between a male and female character who come with a canon name, but I don't want to be Edgar. Look at this guy's hair. That's a macaroni if I've ever seen one. The game starts out with you bringing your friend Ryoga out to some restricted ruins called Gura's Gate. Gura? Not sure how to say it. Also not sure what Ryoga's deal is with his sister, and it looks like having a dead dad is mandatory for this series. Craft knights and dead dads are required, and so are slaves, guardian beasts, and there are still 4 different options to choose from. This time, instead of a personality quiz to decide it for you, you get to choose it yourself by what kind of creature you want. I went ahead and picked the Devil Girl because I know what I am. Ah, damn it. It seems she was getting beat up by this ferocious rabbit. A craft knight is never without their hammer though, and we go ahead and cave its skull in for her. The Devil Girl is just a stray summon right now though, which Macaroni and Ryoga note shouldn't be in the village because there's supposed to be a ward against them because the village doesn't allow any of them their stray summons in. I know I joked about it before, but the summon system in these games is insane, and they're gonna gloss over it even harder in this one than the first. To catch you up, they summon people or creatures from other worlds into this one to fight for them, binding them to a contract that they can't break to obey all orders from their master, and if they manage to leave or the master dies, they become a stray summon and are treated like a third-class citizen. They don't magically go back home. But don't you worry, we're gonna get back to that. First, we gotta name our guardian beast, who is possessed by an angel as well, so with that split personality, I'm naming her Banana. The Guardian Beasts, like I mentioned before, all have a lot of dialogue throughout the game and their own unique personalities, which can make extra playthroughs feel a lot different even if the core story doesn't change, and this game even has New Game Plus unlike the first. Macaroni brings Banana back to his house where we meet the rest of his family. His master Blair has adopted him after the death of his parents, and Blair has 2 kids, Tatiana and Oren. Tatiana as a name sticks out almost as bad as my characters being named Macaroni and Banana, but they actually just localized it from Tatani, so I guess I get it. Blair literally pulls Banana down to the basement to show her the forge, and instantly suggests that she should become Macaroni's guardian beast, because we can't be having no masterless summons around here! Alright, I'll stop doing that, but seriously, this is actually insane. And now we're off to sign the bonding pledge in front of everyone in town, which has apparently taken the place of the binding ritual that actually forces the summons to obey their master, so hey, look at that. Progress. After the chief literally babbles on for so long Macaroni has fallen asleep, he also tells Banana that Macaroni is an edge fencer, which is essentially the keeper of the seal on Gura, where we were going in the beginning of the game before we were so rudely interrupted. After the ceremony, we're ready to head off to learn how to make some weapons, but first we meet Lynn, Ryoga's sister, who pump fakes a flash of her guardian beasts for absolutely no reason. Macaroni is 15 years old and Lynn is 20, just by the way. Keep that in mind for the future. At the forge, Tatiana mentions that Macaroni's crippling character trait is that he breaks every machine he comes across, which will become important for this game, but he can still make and handle drills just fine. Because. The crafting works a little differently this time, where you now have a single shape stone of a specific weapon type, and then choose a material to combine it with to make a weapon. So combining the sword shape stone and the iron ore that Blair gives us makes the amateur knife. There's no need to find different techniques anymore, just different materials, and you can break down a weapon to get the shapestone back at any time to make it into something else using a different material. Shapestones are very rare too, so at any one time you'll most likely only have 1 or 2 of each weapon, and you'll keep your rarest materials for your favorite weapon type. With that weapon made, Blair gives us the basement, which was apparently his room, and he takes Macaroni's, who tells him not to look under the mattress. Don't want him finding the pictures of Lynn stuck under there. This game also works on the same day system the first one did, where every night you can go have a chat with one of the characters you've met, and the first one is forced to be with your guardian beast. Here we learn that an evil summoner named Gurin once came to the village and tried to undo the seal that keeps the evil and powerful Gura trapped in the ruins, and that's when Macaroni's father died. Anyway, we're back to bringing Ryoga to Gura's gate, but before we can check out the seal, a man shows up called Gidarm, grabs Banana, and demands to be taken to the seal. He wants to open the seal for some reason, but Macaroni doesn't actually know how, so Gidarm tries to do it himself and summons a creature to fight Macaroni. After that's dealt with, Gidarm decides to just blow everything up. Fuck you, you guys didn't win. And that's when Ryoga transforms into this hot topic monstrosity, because it turns out he's a summoned creature too. This village is really bad at its racism. Ryoga tries to release Gura himself, so Blair stops him, but gets himself injured, and that causes Macaroni to turn into mac and cheese. And damn, this music during the intro goes hard. The music throughout the entire game is great, and there are a few songs carried over from the first game. It turns out Macaroni's father is called Graham, by the way. He's vaguely white too. Call him Graham Cracker. And then we're just going to skip over all of that and end up back in our room. Blair is injured but recovering, and he tells Macaroni that Gura will slowly regain his power and escape, so he has to repair the seal. To do that, he will have to find the sword known as the Demon Edge that was used to seal Gura, and the only person that can use it is the Edge Fencer Macaroni, who has a Summonite gem in his body. That's what allowed him to transform earlier, and we go off to the square to talk it over with the village. No one apparently knows where the Demon Edge is, unfortunately, since it's been 12 years since it was last used. They really lost it in just 12 years. One of the most important things they could possibly have. This entire village is useless. Apparently they used to keep it in the woods in a fortress nearby, along with their special magazine stash, so we have a lead, and after about an hour of gameplay, the story is finally set up. As we go to leave the village to start on our journey, Lynn stops us one more time to offer a kiss because she feels like she's taking advantage of Macaroni without a reward. Hi, Miss Lynn, do you want to take a seat and explain these texts you sent to Mr. Macaroni? And great, now she's teaching Banana how to show a little peel. Even with the game being more dungeon-based instead of a single deep dungeon, some of them are still connected, so the teleporter is still here just like in the first game. You can also still bash some boxes for a few rewards, and you have the ability to use each weapon type out on the field to do a few different things. It's mostly used to block your progress at the start, as you need a sword to cut grass and an axe to chop stumps down and so on, but it does feel nice to be able to use all the different weapons you have, even if you're not using them in combat. When we make it to the Wind Fortress, we don't find the Demon Edge there, but there are some kids who call it their base and tell us about an herb that might be able to help cure Blair, so now we have a small detour. I found the weapons in this game to be much slower than in the first one, and in the case of the spear, it even seems severely nerfed as it can't hit enemies right in front of you anymore. And though it's boring, I favored the sword over everything else this time, even the drill that I loved so much before. Once we reach the place where the herb is supposed to be, we meet this stray summon and his robot friend, and get to fighting an evil grass dragon that beat him up, which is where I learned that this game is not playing around. The first game pretty much handed every fight to you. As long as you could mash A, you could attack through everything they threw at you. Not anymore. Oh no. This is the first boss, and it has infinitely spawning minions that also make it invulnerable while it respawns them if you kill one, and it has enough attacks that I got destroyed on my first attempt. You have the same guard system as before, where you really have to take your turn to attack like a fighting game, but now if you don't respect it, you will die. And I experienced that a lot. On top of that, there's no more save point right before every boss. There's now a consumable item called an Anywhere Diary that you can use to save, well, anywhere, and they fully expect you to use them to create your own checkpoints. I'm mostly okay with that. However, there isn't always a great indication of when you're going to be thrown into a boss fight, like right before this one. So on a casual playthrough, you're most likely going to be dying and repeating some things. The white-haired wolf boy is Gabriel, and his robot friend is Zeride. We find the herb, and as we're getting ready to leave, Ghidarm and Ryoga show up. They've teamed up together for some reason, and let me tell you, Ghidarm is speaking straight facts. He says it's slavery. Even Gabriel, who is a stray summon, seems to agree with him. And Macaroni has no time to argue that anyway, because Ghidarm starts talking about his fetishes and then leaves. And then you have to walk your happy ass back to town through the dungeon afterwards, so I hope you weren't just barely scraping by on that boss fight. We didn't find the Demon Edge, but we get a clue about another fortress further into the forest, and we return for the night to give Blair the medicine. On the next morning, we meet Lynn, who's up to her usual tricks, and also looking for Ryoga. She says she can handle herself even in a dangerous area, and departs while we continue to look for the next fortress. On the way through a cave, we run into Orin and this giant beast in a hole. A pink ghost comes out of the ground and tells us that it's called Borgrim and is harmless. Orin apparently knows her as Nina, or Nina Nina as she introduces herself. We're Macaroni and Banana. She knows where the fortress is and guides us until we run into Orin, who has been beaten up by a masked swordsman. We try to get revenge, and I got my ass kicked yet again. So far, that's 2 bosses and 2 losses. Let's go in again and hit him with our secret sauces. The swordsman gets away, and Orin is hurt, so we bring him back home, and Blair has collapsed. We better find Lynn so she can make some more medicine. But first, fishing! This is far more important right now. The fishing minigame is really dumb to me, but it gives some genuinely important rewards like boss materials and even new shape stones if you have the patience for it. Ghidarm is waiting for us at the water fortress and summons a new machine boss that I hose down until it stopped moving. He leaves and there's no sign of the Demon Edge here either, but you know it, there's another fortress farther into the woods. The next day we arrive at the Lightning Fortress where a robot demands we leave, and right before it attacks, it realizes that Macaroni is the edge fencer and says he's been waiting for him to arrive. The robot, called Bruno, goes over to Macaroni and takes his necklace that his father gave him, charges it, and then wants to test out the mono-shift. When we transform into mac and cheese, that's called mono-shifting, and we're thrust into a battle with this other robot to test it out. After the fight, Bruno tells Macaroni that he can use the necklace when charged to perform the mono-shift, and luckily Bruno can charge it for you. You don't need to have a quick sesh with your bros. The necklace is called the Red Demon Gem, and Bruno gives it back. Whoa! Banana! We can't be throwing out terms like that. Macaroni is too stupid to understand anything Bruno is saying, and as the edge fencer, Bruno will obey his commands, so the first thing he asks is for Bruno to speak so he can understand, which results in this. Bruno can teleport us to the Demon Edge, but first we need to get 4 Summonite gems. It turns out that Macaroni's dad was also the one who hid the Demon Edge in the first place, which is pretty much exactly like how the first game went. Only difference being there were 4 hidden swords in the first game. Lucky for us, there's 1 gem in this fortress, so we go get it and try to install it, but in case you forgot, Macaroni is terrible with machines. They can't handle all that cheese in their gears. Macaroni tries to jam it in there like the Rock opens briefcases, and nearly breaks Bruno, so we have to go get Orin to help since he's actually good with machines. We collect a Summonite gem from Tatiana along the way that she'd received earlier, and pick up Orin from Nina's cave. We pick up 1 more gem from the water fortress, and meet Lynn there, who's already found it, and we ask her to hand it over. Lynn, please! This isn't that kind of short indie film. We need 1 more gem now, and of course there happens to be 1 more fortress to check out, so now we're off to do that. We meet Gabriel and Zeroid along the way, who decide to go visit Bruno, push some boulders around Chris Redfield style, fight Jeff the Landshark, and eventually arrive at the Fire Fortress. I use the mono shift to fight the boss in there just because why not, and then Passo arrives. She is the one who stole Nina's body, and the reason that Nina is a ghost. She's also fallen for Ryoga and is investigating the fortress purely because of that. We grab the last gem real quick and bring it back to Bruno, who will need the night to prepare, so we stop by Nina's to tell her about Passo and promise to help her get her body back. Also, apparently Blair's illness is a curse from Gura, so until we steal him away, he won't recover. It's now the next day, and Blair's kids are worried about him being alone, but in comes Lynn to save the day and take care of him. Her dad is what? I would have got smacked for saying something like that. Kids these days. It's finally time to teleport to the Demon Edge, and it's only going to be Macaroni and Banana going. Everyone else has to stay back and wait. We transshift away and are brought to an old ruined factory with no sword in sight. Turns out Bruno only knows it's here, so we have to find it ourselves. This is the first dungeon detached from the forest, similar to when you would leave the town in the first game for a dungeon, but like I said, the forest is not a deep dungeon like the Labyrinth in Part 1, and we're done with it for the most part. A little bit of fun with conveyor belts gets us to the first boss of the dungeon, and when it's defeated, the floor collapses, and Macaroni, you can't say that, man. Not with all the allegations surrounding all the people in your village already. Also, why is there a fucking Gundam down here? While we are knocked out from the fall, Orin and Tatiana came to find us thanks to Zeroid hacking Bruno's teleport system, and Orin is a huge fan of the thing. That guy would have all kinds of gunpla if it existed in his world. Obviously, it's going to come up again, but for now, we still have a sword to find and conveyor belts to ride. The drill's on-field ability is to smash broken walls, and through one we find the Demon Edge. And Ryoga and the Black Swordsman, who got here in some way that I can't explain. The Black Swordsman fights us over it, and I decided to use the mono shift, and then realized that you lose access to all of your spells while doing that, so I couldn't heal and died to yet another boss. I chopped him up on the second try and head back thanks to Banana's newly acquired escape skill that takes us back to the beginning of the dungeon. And thank God for that. I can't imagine playing the game without it. Twice. We get back to the fortress, and who would have guessed, there are actually 4 Demon Edges. It's got a fresh coat of paint, but this game very closely mirrors the ideas of Swordcraft Story 1. Bruno can teleport us to the others as well though, so for now we need to rest, but first we have to hide the Demon Edge so no one else can find it. So where should it go? Of course! Under the bed, just like the pictures that are definitely not under Macaroni's bed upstairs. No one will ever think to look under here. The next morning, we're told there's some strange man making a ruckus in the town, and outside we meet Tomei, and he's a summon creature as well. That barrier must just be a sign that says no summons written in crayon. He says he wants to deliver peace to this world, and can sense something different about Macaroni, so we get the hell out of there and go to meet Bruno and teleport again. This is the most wild location in the entire game, and had me pausing the game to laugh to myself in my room like a weirdo. We meet this mermaid right away named Sareen and tell her we're looking for a sword, which she calls a treasure. Then a screen over, we find this man, Captain Byron, who's trapped on an island because the platform he used to get across is gone, and he needs us to hit a button. So we do, and Sareen casually explains that she hit the button to remove his platform. Just because, she didn't want someone to get the treasure or whatever. Okay, I guess she likes Byron then. Byron is a treasure hunter, but somehow he left a chest on that island he was stuck on. What an idiot. Ah, it was me. I'm the idiot. Remember that fish man that wants you to ask to pass like a sexy woman? This is where he is, and Sareen has absolutely no trouble getting through. Macaroni isn't cutting it though. Hey you watery thing, you. Put that spear down and let us pass. Please? With whipped cream and sugar and, little chopped up nuts. Fishman is a pacifist as well and won't fight over it, but Byron has a plan. You see, obviously, the only way to make our pleas believable is if we are also wearing sexy woman clothing. Obviously. Oh, no, I'm not doing another bit for that. Macaroni seems up for it though. Who do we know that could help us out here but the #1 Chris Hansen avoider of Cliff Village, Lynn? Macaroni asks as best as he can, they have a crazy exchange, and Lynn decides to help by just going to meet Fishman and asking for us, thank God. And she does a great job because of course she does, Lynn is a whole. So far so good, but now the Fishman doesn't want to let her leave. He even asks her out, which she declines immediately, twice, and the Fishman doesn't like Macaroni's sass. Lynn says she can't date him because she's already interested in Macaroni, and that pisses him off so much he swears off his life of pacifism to throw down. Beating him up gets him to calm down and let us through, and Lynn makes Mr. Fish escort her back to Bruno to leave. Further on, we finally found the sword, and here's Byron, or Brittany, I guess. He's very proud of himself. Sareen tells us that we can't retrieve the sword without getting a stone from a monster in the nearby cave, for reasons, and the race between Macaroni and Byron is on to retrieve it. And then inside the cave, we're greeted by Passo again for no apparent reason. She runs off and we catch back up to her at the end of the cave where Byron has been defeated. Passo is afraid of the big lobster monster's claws and runs off, so now we get our crack at the lobster dragon. No hard R's here. This thing has a ton of health and I was not prepared for it, but that's alright. When was the last time I saved on this chapter? That would be never. Perfect. Second try is the charm as always, and we get the treasure. Let's take it back to Sareen and retrieve the demon edge. Sareen is happy to have her precious treasure back after lying to get us to go get it, and also making sure not to drop a hard R herself, and she uses it to turn human, and it turns out Byron and her were in love with each other. This is critical to the plot, I assure you. Let's blow this popsicle stand. We shove the second sword under the bed and are moving on. There's some shenanigans afoot the next morning as Tomei tried to exorcise Gura and failed, and somehow managed to destroy the ruins in the process. Some of Gura's evil spirits slipped out somehow, we'll just pretend that makes sense, and it seems to have pissed off Borgrim, so we're gonna go check on him. Yeah, he's pissed. We'll have to calm him down, but how are we gonna contend with something that big? Oh, I'm sure you guessed. It's time to go get that Gundam. Some reviewers complained about the game reusing old areas a lot, like here where we have to run back through the ruined factory, but everything is so short, especially when you've outpaced the enemies there, that I don't really see it as an issue. After all, they can only fit so much data on a GBA cart. There's even a little bit of new stuff for this dungeon, as Auron asks Macaroni to go get some spare parts from the lower levels that were previously locked. More conveyor belts for us! Whee! With that, we head back to Tomei to ask him to help exorcise Gora from Borgrim, and he says he can't do it because his horoscope is telling him today is unlucky. That's fine. We'll just do it ourselves, as he says we can create a sword to ward off evil spirits. But to do that, we specifically need to make one with anti-demon ore that the fisherman has. And it absolutely has to be a sword because Tomei likes swords and he isn't willing to use anything else. Good thing I had a second sword shapestone, but the fisherman apparently doesn't give a shit about the impending threat because he is only willing to trade the ore for fishing points that you get from the fishing minigame. So yes, it is required to play that in order to finish this game. You need 350 points for it, and I currently have 15. It only took me about 7 minutes to get the points needed though. We craft the sword, which looks flimsy as hell, and get the spell put on it so we can move out. Back in the cave, Borgrim is trying to escape thanks to G'darm, and right on cue, the others arrive with the giant Gundam Gunvald. They play the "it's all a machine, so please don't touch anything" macaroni gag once again, and we're actually gonna pilot this thing. It jumps right to the fight against Borgrim, and this is really cool. I was not expecting a mecha versus kaiju fight when I loaded up this game about a young blacksmith, but here we are. It even has a giant laser gun you can use, and that's pretty sick. But I'm extra surprised this is here because, spoiler, this does not get used again for the rest of the game. They set up Gunvald and Borgrim early on for this one fight, and that's it. I have no idea why they went this hard for it, but I respect it. There's still a regular fight against G'darm's next summon where I used Banana's ultimate move for the first time, and those are much more usable in this game than the previous. The fight being on the arms of the two huge monsters locked in a power struggle in the background is also really cool. Now it's time to exercise the spirit with our fishing sword. Well, let's just hope that worked. Borgrim goes to sleep and the crisis is averted. Ryoga and Passo show up and reveal that they're no longer working with G'darm, and then they blow up Gunvald.
Yo, come on, man, I can't have shit in this house!
Let's go get Demon Edge number 3. We've been to a factory and a beach, and now we've arrived at a snowy mountain. This is the crossover episode. We meet some summoners here that think we're shady and decide to fight us since we can't really tell them what we're doing, and this group is actually Nesty, Amber, and Taurus from Summon Night 2, complete with all new, really bad English voice acting.
You'll be alright.
Just like the first game, there's no way any Western player could have had any idea who these characters are, because their game was never released here, but I still think cameos like this are pretty cool. Some kids thought they were evil, which is kind of why we ended up fighting them, and Taurus suggests if she were, she'd need to show more leg. Is that a thing? This is one of the shorter chapters in the game, and not much else happens for a while besides us singing a song about sweet potatoes for some reason to calm a kid down. Passo summons a boss to fight us for the sword, and the Summon Night 2 heroes scare them off. In the morning, we find out Passo is back and go to stop her, but it turns out she was just a distraction for the others to go steal the demon edges. But I mean, we hid them in such a difficult place to find. Surely they weren't found. Well, shit. We gotta go get them back. But first, let's make a new weapon. Why is it ribbed for her pleasure? Hey, don't make fun of it, okay? It's a serious weapon we made. Banana designed it. The Black Swordsman is the one who took them, so once we find him, it starts a fight, but I just have to ask, why does he sound like that? I didn't notice it in any of the other fights with him. This is like a Tom and Jerry villain. But I show him the pleasures of the evil saber, and it turns out Gabriel was the Black Swordsman the whole time. I was half expecting it to be Graham Cracker somehow, but Gabriel just wanted a way to be sent back to his homeworld, and I can't even really blame him. He's been living in the woods as an outcast, it's not really his fault. His robot friend Zeride has the teleport ability too, which explains how we kept running into the bad guys all the way across the world, and they even were responsible for blowing up my fucking Gundam. I will never forgive them. We catch up to G'darm afterwards, who has brainwashed Orin, reluctantly beat him up with the power of the totally not silicone sword, and get the demon edges back. And let's just hide those puppies right back under the bed.
But would they suspect it twice?
It's time to get the final sword now, so of course it has to be in a fire-themed location. The hot springs create a fog effect that you can stop by hitting the water with your hammer, which makes perfect sense. And of course, since this is anime themed and there are hot springs, we have to be an accidental peeping Tom. We have to fight Kohina and her brother over our perceived pervitude, and afterwards they reveal that they've been cursed by a summon creature here who is guarding the Demon Edge. I have no idea why this was included because they serve basically no purpose for the rest of the game. I guess they just ran out of ideas for the last location. We go grab the last sword after defeating the monkey boss that cursed the siblings, and Ryoga shows up to stop us now that we have all of them, but unlucky for him, he wasn't expecting Wolf Boy backshots, which with the way he looks is honestly kind of surprising. That weakens him enough for us to win the fight still using the dildo sword, perfect for the weak spot he apparently has. Getting dicked down twice in 5 minutes has pissed him off, and he's decided that he will kill as many people as he has to as long as Macaroni is one of them, and blows himself up. But then, Mac and Cheese makes his reappearance, and we are now back to safety with no idea what happened. Ryoga is nowhere to be seen, so they assume him dead and return home. We have one more plot point to wrap up before the end, which is getting Nina her body back from Passo. In order to do that, we're going to have to make another sword with Tomei, but I only have one since I lost my second one the first time we had to do this, and I don't want to give up my main weapon. Luckily, there is a way to get another sword shapestone. Not so luckily, it's by trading fishing points for it. And not only that, but you also need to use something specific as material, something Passo doesn't like. The only thing we know she hates is the giant claws of the lobster dragon, that racist bitch, so we're gonna have to go get one from the sea place. First, the fishing. How long it takes is gonna depend on what bait you have available because the later game ones give fish that are worth more points, and since I started to run out, this took me almost 18 minutes of straight fishing. The sword is definitely the best weapon by far in this game, and they knew that, so forcing you to use it when I had plenty of shapestones for other weapons feels pretty bad. Getting the claw only took me like 3 minutes, by the way. Passo is handling the potential death of Ryoga really well, so we fight her and exorcise her from Nina's body, and I'm pretty sure she's just dead now. Oh well, no one seems to care, and Nina has her body back. With that out of the way, it's finally time to grab the demon edges and go seal Gura off once and for all. And who could possibly have guessed it, but Ryoga is still alive. I think he just wanted some more macaroni. He also looks and fights like he's cosplaying Knuckles from Sonic. When he's defeated, Gidarm shows up holding Tatiana hostage. He shocks everyone with lightning bolts, which, if he could do that, I don't know why he didn't do it sooner in the game. And then Lynn shows up saying that Ryoga was just supposed to wait for Macaroni to gather all the demon edges. I knew there was more to her than just teaching Macaroni what good mac and cheese sounds like.
That's what good pussy sounds like.
It turns out the demon edges are all pieces of Gura's power, even the summonite gem that's inside Macaroni and gives him his transformation powers, and Lynn is another summon creature in the village.
Do I hear 5?
Her master was Gurin, the one that first tried to revive him, and she is afflicted by the bond of a summoned creature that forces her to obey his will, with his last wish being for her to revive Gura. Tell me again how this is all okay. Lynn takes the two siblings into the ruins, and it's now up to Macaroni to stop both Gura's revival and Lynn. They apparently need a host body to revive Gura into, and they plan to use Macaroni for that end. Macaroni wants to take down Gura now, but technically we were forbidden from trying, so Master Blair is going to test him one final time first. I think this is a callback to arguing with your master to go into the final dungeon in the first game, but this time you actually have to fight him, and it makes no sense here. This is to save Blair's children and potentially the world, plus he's literally walking around with a bandage on his head. Into the labyrinth now, and it has a couple puzzles which are very simple but more in depth than the last couple of places had. But even more so than that, this dungeon made me lose my sanity. Look at this! This boulder here puts you on a loop in the dungeon that's pretty big, so you might not notice it at first. This boulder takes you to the exit. I got stuck in this loop trying to figure out what I was doing wrong for God knows how long because of that. Listen to this guide. Walk along till you see a hole to your left and a boulder to your right. That is from the top-rated guide for this game on GameFAQs. Old game guides can be so terrible, man. I hate this labyrinth. Lynn meets back up with us at the bottom with Macaroni's family in tow, and we take her into the final chamber. Orange slowly starts breaking the seals with the demon edges while we try to call for help in secret, and just as we're about to use the last sword, our backup arrives. I want to know how they got past the boulder maze. Lynn has to fight us due to her bond while looking like a character from ARMS, and that was the perfect chance to try out Banana's new ultimate move I had just got, Romantic Bomb.
I'll do my best. Here I go. How's this? Finish!
It does a lot of damage at least. She may be defeated, but somehow Lynn still has enough strength to snatch the last demon edge from Macaroni and use it. The evil spirit tries to take over Macaroni's body, and it's revealed that it was actually Gurren, the evil summoner from the beginning, who was trying to use Gura's power to revive himself after his death. Gura doesn't take too kindly to that though, and we get up to fight this beast thing, which is apparently Gura. Just like the first game, it's an impossible battle and we bail. And just like before again, we have a special material we got from the previous battles to create the ultimate weapon to take him on again. And not to worry if we fail, because the villagers have a backup plan. If we don't succeed, they're simply going to teleport the entire village into space. Alright, sure, at this point, why not? He has a pretty ridiculous 12,500 health and takes no damage from magic, so this fight is a slog, but it's not too difficult either. That couldn't be all there was though, so Gura takes over Lynn's body and turns into this thing. But the voices of our friends and the power of friendship win over the piece of Gura inside Macaroni and unlock Super Mac and Cheese 2. And he has 40,000 health. Holy shit. This is an endurance race. And if you lose, you're going back to the first fight and doing it all over again, which would really suck. Thankfully, I just barely squeaked by, and Macaroni donates the piece of Gura inside of him to fully revive him and kick Gurren out of his body. And he looks like that? Okay. Turns out he's a pretty cool guy actually, and he just kind of leaves. The day is saved. Hopefully they don't go through with that space plant. Fuck. I'm assuming the ending you get in this game is also determined by who you chose to hang out with the most, but I don't have any actual confirmation of that this time. There's an extensive post-game, just like the first Swordcraft story, where you can get even greater weapons and fight stronger bosses, but once the story is over, I considered myself done with it. As I mentioned earlier, you can do New Game Plus as well if you want to run through the game again with all your stuff, but there's not much point in doing it other than seeing how different Guardian Beasts changed the dialogue, and you could do that with a regular New Game if you wanted to. You could probably tell as well, but the humor falls off pretty hard towards the end of the game as they try to wrap up the various story pieces they had hanging around, which kind of makes it feel like two separate games at times. The mid-section of the game is definitely the highlight, especially the beach level. I haven't laughed that hard at a game in a while. As for why this game isn't remembered as well as it should be, it'll be for the same reasons as the first game. The main series wasn't available here in the West until much later, and all the references to old characters and brand recognition are completely lost. So it would have had to create a reputation for itself all on its own. I think the Swordcraft story series is good enough that it could have had a shot at that. I mean, it feels right at home with the best GBA RPGs to me, like Mega Man Battle Network or Golden Sun, but for whatever reason, it just didn't happen. There is a third game as well that was never translated and brought over by Atlas like the other two were, so unfortunately for now, there's no way to play it. I saw some information on a Discord server working on a fan translation, but as far as I can tell, that hasn't been completed, and as a fan project, there's equal odds that it never will be. You can check out the main series as tactics RPGs with Summon Night 5 and 6 on PS4, but that's where the entire franchise has been stopped for the last 10 years, so there isn't much Summon Night to go around if you can't understand Japanese, which is a real shame. That being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you're interested and can speak Japanese, maybe you can find that fan server and help out with the translation so us English speakers can finally enjoy the third game. Until then, I've been Abandoned Save, and I'll see you in the next one.